why does she have sound on her computer device? Or
Well, to be fair, maybe she doesn't know it's on.
I guess.
Well, I'm gonna buy that. I guess that's settled.
So we are back with a new episode of BMSO. This title of today is called The Silence. And right off the bat, I'm just going to say that a lot of people are saying that this is a rip-off of A Quiet Place. It might be in some cases, but this is actually based on a book from Team 11. And this book came out way before A Quiet Place did. But as you might comment, it could be inspired by the movie. Anywho, this movie was released in 2019. The director is called John Leonetti, and the writers are Carey and Van Dyke. And as I said, based on a novel from Team 11. This movie is, well, we can start by introducing the characters quite fast as we are talking, because they are introduced very fast. So we could just start out right away. So the first scene that we get is some cave explorers trying to get through a stone wall. They manage to do so. They hear some growling, and then they get attacked by some bat-looking things. And I'm going to refer to them as bat-looking things, because I don't really know what else to say. Birds.
They're called wisps in the movie, but they're basically some kind of monster bats.
I'm going to call them a bat-looking thing.
Yeah.
So, right off the bat, we get to know that they were released from some deep cave system that they have been evolving by themselves for, I don't know, hundreds of years, thousands of years. No one really knows. It's not really explained. And yeah.
It's a problem right from the start, because how could they have survived in there for hundreds of years?
And
That's also my fault, yes.
We're going to talk about that later, because it gets very clear in the movie that they will not been able to survive down there.
Mm-hmm.
But okay, so we start off with the main character being shown in the scene, and in the next scene, of course, because the cave system scene is over and they have done their part in the movie. But Ellie, who is our first character and the main character in some ways, I've written here in my notes that she is the deaf, fertile girl. And that would make sense later on, but she is apparently getting bullied for being deaf. And my first thought is, who the hell bullies someone who is deaf?
Just because they're deaf.
Like, seriously, even the level of douchery here, let's say that you were at the top, would you really do that?
No, I could understand if they were 10 years old, but these are teenagers. I think they should be past the stage where they bully someone for being deaf.
Especially if they know how it happened, because they show a car crash with her grandparents and stuff.
Yeah, so it's an accident, and she recently got deaf. I think it's 3 years ago. Later explained. Anywho, we jump forward a little bit, and we're introduced to our other main character, who is her father, called Hugh, and he's some sort of architect. I don't know; it doesn't really matter, but it's a weird profession for him, because he doesn't really have any kind of help from that profession. Usually, when we're following a family, they have some sort of quality that they might use later, but
they do actually. The whole family has it. They know sign language.
Yeah, they do know sign language, I know, but that's because of the deaf girl, and that's of course very convenient. But I mean that his profession has no real value.
I know what you mean. Like he has no professional skills actually of any help in the movie.
Right. So he could have been working as you know the movie that we saw with the giant spiders, that he was working for Anticimex.
Yeah.
Maybe he should have worked for Anticimex and been some sort of bat professional or something.
Bat hunter.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Batman.
Or Mosquito movie, where that lead female character, she was like an expert on mosquitoes because she was scientist something.
Right, exactly. It's very convenient, but usually it is that case. I saw the movie Greenland recently, and of course that's another movie, but he also has a very convenient profession for him to survive. Doesn't matter. Let's move on. We are also getting introduced to her mother, a huge wife, I'm guessing. The next scene, and I don't really know what her purpose in the movie is more than she's a mother, because I have written here in my notes that she is the mother.
Yeah, she doesn't do much.
No, she really doesn't.
To be fair, it's mostly the dad and his deaf daughter that are main characters. The rest are just there, basically.
Yeah, like Alice's little brother, he does almost nothing in the entire movie.
Yeah, they're all just side characters to the dad and the daughter.
But isn't there too many side characters? Do we really need? Because I also written here in my notes here that the boy, their son, that he is quite pointless too.
Yeah, he's useless.
Yeah, exactly. So they could have managed with just having, one child. I mean,
Yeah.
there is no real, there isn't some engagement between the sister and the brother either. So there's not even that.
And also the mom and the grandmother could have been the same character, basically.
Yeah, exactly. That's a good point. So we could jump to the next character, the grandmother. I have written here in my note that she's the convenient nurse.
Who has asthma attacks.
Yeah, she has asthma attacks. I guess that's the big part for her. But I was quite annoyed later on in the movie, but I'm going to mention it later.
Yeah.
And then we have the last character, who is Glenn, the best friend, who is the tough friend. And his basic, I don't really know what his point in this movie was, more than to die later on.
Nope.
That was kind of it. And at least to me, it was very predictable that he would die pretty soon in the movie.
Yeah, totally. You can see that usually in movies when they build up a relationship very fast, that guy is a goner.
Mm.
And now that we introduce the character and we're kind of starting the story of the movie, I just want to make a point that at this moment we have been in a point of view of Allie 2 times, and whenever we are looking through her eyes, we're hearing this tinnitus sound, this screeching sound. And do you think that she experienced that all the time, that she hears it, or was that just a choice from the director because they didn't really want to go total silence? They wanted something because she's deaf.
I didn't even realize.
Yeah, because I thought it would have been a better choice that if we are looking from her point of view, then why just not keep it entirely silence? We don't need to be entertained by silence.
I also thought that was weird. I would have preferred it with all silence. I don't know why they did that.
Exactly. Yeah. So if you're going to go,
I didn't even notice this.
Yeah. So if you're going to compare it with A Quiet Place, I think they're doing a better job there because they are really steering into the skid when it comes to using the total silence. So point to that movie if we're going to.
Also, speaking of pointless characters, Allie also has a boyfriend called Rob, and he's also completely pointless in the whole movie.
Right. I wasn't even supposed to mention him like in the bitter end because he does absolutely nothing. They talk a little bit, but it doesn't really even make sense because maybe they could talk and she could share her inner thoughts or something, but otherwise I don't see the point with him at all.
It feels kind of strange that they're introducing these kind of characters that are supposed to be like family and close to each other, and yet there are almost no moments when they actually bond and you like get the benefit of having these characters.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm. We could make like a sum up in the end with this kind of discussion, because I think we need to go through the movie, so it kind of makes sense when we're talking about it. As I said, she lost her hearing in a car accident, and also grandparents. I don't know if it makes sense, but that's what they said. And also written here in my notes that so far I think the acting has been quite good. Anywho, later on in the movie, scene 3, I've written here, Ellie is getting pulled out of her bed in the middle of the night because there is some sort of newscast where they are saying that the world, or the big cities at least, have been attacked by something they don't really know. And they are showing videos and pictures of people being eaten, and also a video that they said gone viral where a mother is showing a picture of them not making a sound. Or like encouraging other people not to make a sound. So if we're not getting clues already that they're trying to force this on us. Do you think they went too hard on this, or was this necessary to start off the movie this fast?
I don't know. It feels like, how do they know this already? And
they really figured it out a bit too fast.
Yeah, they should have figured it out by the car later on. By the car crash and that stuff. They could have figured that out then and don't talk about this now. It seems weird that they know this already.
They could have used the newscast in order to get this jump start and for people to create a chaos or something. But I think they should have left out the sound part because, as you say, it would have been more interesting for them to finding that out by themselves. And since they have so many characters, they could have sacrificed one of them. They do so, but they still have too many characters. But we should talk about that when we reach the scene. Also, something that they show in some sort of discretion, the grandmother is taking some sort of medicine. I don't know if it's for does she have cancer, or what do they imply? I thought it was some sort of heart medicine.
Yeah, I don't know. Something...
Yeah,
fatal, I guess.
She implies that she doesn't have much time left, so must be something fatal.
Yeah. They show an overview picture of the city when they decides to leave the city, like they always do. And like in every goddamn chaos movie, it only takes about 1 hour or so, and the whole city is in flames. Why is it that the first thing people decide to do when there's chaos is to light the city on fire?
I don't know if that's an American thing, because I'm pretty sure that if a disaster would happen here in Sweden, we wouldn't set our cities on fire.
It seems like a bad thing to do.
Yeah. Is it just me? Have you guys played The Last of Us?
No.
Yeah.
Well, either way, it seems like the beginning of this movie is inspired heavily by the beginning of that game. It almost feels like the same thing to me, except that The Last of Us did it better.
You're right. The general feeling is about the same. You're right.
It hit me like when they zoomed out and the city was on flames and people were driving and running everywhere, and it just felt the same to me.
Mm-hmm.
And also, on the TV, when they talked on the news, it just, you should stay at home and don't use your cars. So what do? They jump into their cars and drive away.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's also something that we could talk about in the end, because that also doesn't make sense in this kind of movie. And because why should they leave? Why not just soundproof their own house? Wouldn't that be simpler?
So basically, the movie is they leave their house to drive to another house and stay there. What?
Yeah, and she even talks to Rob over her phone or something while they're in the car. And Rob even says, "Why are you going?" They said on TV we're supposed to stay at home.
Right. But this is good, but we need to move on. We need to reach the scene because we're kind of jumping ahead of ourselves here.
Okay.
So let's just move on. As you said, they decides to drive north. I don't know why they choose north. It's very convenient later on, but Allie is talking to her friend, and I've written here in my notes that maybe they did so that introduced this character because she needs something to motivate her as a character, but as the movie progresses, that is not the case.
Can you guys just answer me one thing?
Yes.
Why does she have sound on her computer device?
Well, to be fair, maybe she doesn't know it's on.
I guess.
Well, I'm gonna buy that. I guess that's settled.
Yeah. So they decides to stay at the gasoline station, and here we are introduced first to the situation where the sound kind of matters, because they run into a redneck and he has a gun. And I don't know how far or how much he knows about this, but he seems to know something because the family brought their dog, which I get because people love their dogs, but it doesn't make sense because he's a quite big X factor when it comes to sound. And anywho, he starts to bark, and the redneck, wants him to shut up. So he threatens the dog, and he starts to shoot his gun in the air instead. Like, that would be a better decision.
Yeah, this makes too much sound. Let's shoot right up
exactly.
into the air.
The dog makes too much sound, so let's make more sound. That's how politicians work.
Yeah.
Yeah, so after that, he decides to drive again. Here is a small detail that I thought they would use, but the kid decides that he wants to go with his the father's friend, Glenn, the tough one. And here the father is talking to his son about how he were bullied when he was young, and Glenn, the tough friend, saved him, and they've been best friends since. He also makes a comment there that he's headbutting one of his bullies, that Glenn does that, and that was pretty cool. And the son decides to go with him. So they have two cars with Glenn and the son in the one, and the father and the rest of the family is in the other car. As they drive off, they kind of stop again, like on the road, and the kid decides that he wants to go back to the car with the family instead. And here is what I want to ask you, because there are one or two things here that the director shows on. The first theory, that the kid decides to switch cars and goes back to the other car again just a few minutes later, doesn't necessarily need to mean anything, because the director might want to show us a picture of, okay, so the kid made a decision, but then he made a second decision going back. So that small decisions doesn't need to affect the movie more than that. The second theory is that when they drove off, the director kind of thought that, okay, I need to kill off Glenn. So we can't really have the kid in that car, so we need to stop and get him back to the other car. And then it's lazy writing. So what do you think?
Lazy writing. It would have been more interesting if he stayed in his car as well.
I think so too, actually. I think it's lazy writing. It would have been more interesting if the kid also got into the upcoming car crash.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it wouldn't affect anything. I mean, he could still be hurt and anything like that, but it wouldn't be much worse than that. So I don't know why they did this, but I was thinking of those two things. Anyway, the father's best friend, Glenn. It's annoying to say that whole thing, but Glenn is such a forgettable name. Yeah, but he crashes his car at least because some deers running in front of him. The car flips around and he is stuck in the car. The family tries to get him out but fails, and to be fair, it doesn't really seem like they're trying that hard. I mean, there's no real panic, from the father who is trying to get his absolute best friend out. He's just like pulling the car the car door a little bit, and it's like, no, you're stuck.
To be fair, he doesn't seem very injured either. Like, he's bleeding a little, but he's still able to move around and talk normally and such.
Yeah, I guess his leg was stuck. I don't know how. Doesn't matter. The dog again starts to bark, and they get attacked by these bad-looking things. They decide to let the dog out, and they don't really show it, but I guess he's getting eaten, and the family is sad about that. But what I want to talk about is that here they all agree that maybe we should not be speaking anymore to each other, not even using a whisper, because, it seems like the sound are attracting these bad-looking things. And what is the first thing that happens after they agree about that? Well, the mother says, "What?" in a whispering voice. I mean, you all seem to know sign language. Why not use it? It makes no sense. I mean, they need to be terrified about these things, and they just got attacked, but still they need to make these voices when they talk.
Yeah.
It's annoying. And I got to mention that a lot because they do it all the time.
Yeah, they do.
There's a lot of annoying things in this movie.
If you decide to make this movie, then you need to be on the clear that if you make sound that's bad, then you don't need to do unnecessary sounds, like whispering or talking at all, especially if you know sign language. If you want people to be able to talk, then remove the sign language thing. Remove Allie being deaf or whatever.
Yep, another point to A Quiet Place.
Yeah, exactly. And just make a small detail here that I saw in the movie is that whenever the dog is barking, the hairs on his back seems to rise up, and the only one who is noticing it is Allie. And I think the director chose to do so because you wanted to show that since she's becoming deaf, she has heightened her other senses. Doesn't really matter because it has absolutely no impact of the movie, whether or not she's able to feel something or see something or whatever. But they did this, and I'm going to mention it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so after a while, they decide to ditch the car and walk instead. Do you think it's a good decision?
Well, I guess the car makes sound, so I guess so.
Yeah, I think it's a good decision.
Great.
But also they put Glenn's car on fire before this.
I don't know if it was it meant to be like a burial ceremony thing?
It was to make more sound so the bad things were attracted to that instead of following them.
Right. And also the car exploded.
Yeah, for some reason.
I hate that.
But also, this would have been more interesting if the boy was also trapped in there, because then they had to make a decision on what to do. And now they just, let's blow him up and go.
Yeah, exactly. It becomes an easy decision for them.
I also think it would have been more interesting later, because then you could have seen, first of all, the family grieving, but also the father being filled with regret for his decision to letting the son go in the other car instead of keeping him close in his own car, stuff like that.
Yep.
Exactly. Because then it kind of creates character in the movie, and also maybe he's growing as a person and thinking that, okay, maybe I should be more careful later on. And that could have some sort of effect later on in the movie. or something like that. Anywho, they walk and they found a house. The person that owns this house has put some sort of wind chimes on the fence, and so when our protagonists try to open a gate, they obviously make sounds, and that attracts the bad-looking things. The owner goes outside and gets eaten. So in just 1 minute, they just fucked someone's life up. I thought it was mean. They did absolutely nothing to save her or warn her or anything about, we need your house. So, I mean, we could have stayed in your own house, but now we decided to leave our house to take your house instead. So, sorry.
And also, if she has like these gates around her house, why is there a big open pipe that anyone can crawl through to get into it?
Yeah, exactly. And that's exactly how they try to get into the house, through the pipe. And of course, there's something that forces them to make sounds, and in this case, it's a snake that scares the son. And what do you think about this? It's hard to put yourself in that situation, of course, but if you absolutely, into 100%, need to be quiet, do you think it's possible to restrain yourself even if you get scared?
I don't know, can help me relate, because I know some people are very jumpy and they scream when they get scared and they scream in roller coasters and such, but I have never ever done that, so I actually don't know.
No, because the thought started to grow on me. It's like, maybe it's impossible to stay quiet, because when you're scared, you're not thinking and it's just a reflex. I don't know.
Yeah, but also they should be more prepared for stuff to show up and like train themselves not to make sound, but I guess this is still early on, so
yeah, exactly. So maybe as the years progress, maybe they cannot what's it called, you teach yourself to at least stay quiet, and you always have that as a default value. Okay, so they decides. They enter the house, but as I said, the son makes a noise, and they get attacked, and the mother especially. But here, the father does the one thing that I was thinking about the first thing in the movie: is why not make a central noise somewhere where you attract these bad-looking things, and then just kill them in that one place. Because this father is being pretty smart right now, because he finds a wood chipper and he puts that on, and of course that makes a lot of noise, and the bad-looking things just keep flying right into it and killing themselves. So at that point, I was declaring the father to be the smartest person on earth.
But that also made me wonder, why don't they just keep that on 24/7? Because I don't think it's on later. Because if they kept it on while they stayed inside a house, then that would effectively filter all of the bad things from the area.
Yeah, I was thinking that too, but maybe it broke.
Yeah, I think it got like jammed because of all of the bad things flying into it.
Okay, that makes sense, I guess.
Yeah, but otherwise, my plan here would actually to be if the military doing something like this and just drop a bomb or something. I don't know. It feels like they could have solved this problem pretty easily if they are aware of them just being attracted to sounds. Anywho, the mother is deeply hurt, and they carry her inside. They cut her pants open, and damn, she is hurt. There is some serious damage to that leg. If she doesn't really get any medicine, she will probably die by some sort of infection. And here comes the convenient nurse thing, because they haven't mentioned this at all, and I thought it would be a good thing, because apparently she's a nurse, the grandmother. And I was just thinking about Glenn, that maybe she could have walked down there and like laid an eye on him to see how he's doing, or seeing if he has some sort of crucial open wounds or something? Nah, screw that.
Can I make 2 comments too about the house?
Yeah.
Because when they get there, the mom is hurt, and they say, "Okay, go find some medicine." And Allie, she just goes, like, she's gone for like 5 seconds. "Oh, I find all this medicine." How can she know where all the medicine is in this house that she's never been in before?
Maybe there was a convenient cabinet that said medicine cabinet.
And also, this is the most annoying thing to me. They don't close the freaking door to the house. It's like in a later shot when they show the house from the outside, they have the door open. Why would they leave the door open when the things can fly in?
Fresh air.
What the hell? They deserve to die.
Yeah, exactly. But they don't. So, well, of course, this forces them to go outside and try to find medicine. It's just a reason to create some sort of tension. Yeah. Anywho, just a middle thing here. Allie once again tries to contact her friend. He answers a little bit too fast in the situation that he's in, and abruptly ends the call by saying something that his family died or something. I don't know. I wasn't really.
I wrote in my notes, I'm about to die. I better Skype a little.
Exactly, and uses noise. Doing noise. I mean, it's so dumb.
Yeah, it reminded me a bit of Hungerford, like how they film everything, even when they're chased by zombies. It's like, okay, my parents are dead, and these things are after me. Better call my girlfriend.
Maybe this is just the social media generation.
Right. They need to update their Facebook and Instagram, even though they're about to die. I mean, someone's gotta relate to that. Yeah. Anywho, they go outside, and I was a bit annoyed, right, as they try to exit through the gate again, because, you know, they were going through the gate, and I asked myself, have they removed the wind chimes? Nope. Okay. So then he tries to be smart by opening the door just a little bit, and also very slowly, of course, because he doesn't really want to do any sounds. He opens it up maybe, I don't know, 50 centimeters something, maybe less, like a couple of inches, and then he puts down some sort of door stop. And I was thinking, oh, that's pretty smart. But then also, it's not very smart that he didn't open up the whole gate, because if you only open up a little bit, it kind of opens up for people to accidentally touch the door and create sound. Why not just open up the gate entirely, or remove the fucking wind chimes?
Yeah, or just keep the gate locked and crawl through the same pipe so that the family is more safe from intruders.
Yeah, that too. I mean, the decision that he decided to take, he didn't do well enough, and maybe should not have done it at all.
Nope.
And also, they're still talking. They are talking with their voices and not using sign languages. I just want to put that in. They reach a small city, and they kind of walks around, and you can see on the roof that there is a man staring at them. So they look around for medicine in some sort of abandoned store, and they find some medicine, I guess, and they put it in a bag. Ellie, however, finds out that they are laying eggs in the bodies that they kill, in this case, humans. And now we come to the thing that one of you guys talked about in the beginning, like how did they survive in the caves? Because if they need to reproduce in bodies, how did they find any sort of life besides themselves in that cave?
I'm more concerned about what we're eating, because they're obviously flesh eaters.
Maybe they ate each other. Maybe they reproduced by putting eggs in themselves.
Seems counterproductive, but okay.
Yeah, I know, but that's like the only thing I can think of. And also, if that's the only thing that they could have done, that maybe they should have shown that in the movie that, okay, sometimes they eat each other and sometimes they put eggs in their own dead bodies or something. I don't know. Make some sort of explanation to this, because it makes absolutely no sense that they would survive down there or evolve by nothing. I mean, of course, life is a strong thing, but it can't survive on anything. Or nothing.
Nope, this movie makes no sense for most of it.
Right, and maybe we should ask these questions, but it's a bit annoying if you are thinking about it, because...
Yeah, but it's just this one stupid thing after another. It's like, okay, this happens, and this happens, and this happens, but then no one answers the question of why it happens.
Exactly.
It just does.
Mm. So Allie makes a sound, and that forces them to start the fire alarm and get out. I thought that was a pretty good solution, actually. I mean, it kind of, messes around with the bad-looking thing's head, and they were just flying around. So I'm guessing that if they had some bad luck, that they would run into one of those, because they was just flying around like flies. But otherwise, I thought it was a pretty good thing to do.
Yeah.
I think I would have done the same. Anywho, the man that you saw standing on the roof before is now greeting them outside. It kind of seems pointless. You kind of first think that he is some sort of priest, but he's not.
He claims to be.
He claims to be, maybe. Okay, so that's why I got the impression. He shows us some text. I wasn't able to read it. Did you guys caught up what he was writing in the book that he showed them?
He wrote, "I am a priest. Would you like to join my my group or whatever?"
Okay.
Yeah, something like that.
Okay.
And then they didn't want to, so he disappeared.
Yeah, that was weird. Yes, he disappears. They decides to just leave it and go home. And from nowhere, Allie sits down beside her father and talks about the bad-looking things, and that they doesn't seem to like cold, and maybe the Arctic Circle seems like a good idea, and that she saw it on CNN. And I'm kind of bothered by this, because this is some sort of information that you get outside of screen, and once again, it feels like lazy writing. So I think they have two options here, or maybe even three, that if they want to use that worthless character of hers, Rob or whatever it was, the one that she's always Skyping with, that maybe he could share that information. Or that they heard it on the radio, or maybe that they saw it on an actual newscast instead of her just telling him. I don't know, I didn't like that.
There was another thing too. They said that all the electricity and all the battery power is drained from certain places, and that's why not all TV stations work and blah blah blah. And just that's weird. And then her father is like, "Oh, it's like the Dark Ages."
Yeah,
like, what?
That was yeah.
What the hell? Cringe.
Yeah, really cringe. Anywho, Ali contacts his friend again, and now he seems to be at a refugee camp somewhere, and she really wants to find out where, but of course it's getting break up. They are not breaking up. The connection to the internet is breaking up, so she doesn't really get an answer to her question of where he is. On the following night, there is a little girl outside who is knocking on the door, and they open up. And my first thought is, yeah, she's a Trojan horse.
No, before this, the priest and group actually comes to greet them, like outside the house, and they go to talk to them a bit.
Okay, I think I missed that. What were they talking about?
It was basically that the priest and some of his followers show up outside the house. The dad goes out to talk to them. And that's where the priest makes this comment about Ellie and that she's fertile.
Right. Exactly. Now I remember. Yeah. So this was quite early after they visited the village. So this was pretty much the next scene, right?
Yeah.
So So he was just trying to once again making them join this cult thing, and he says no, and he tries to threaten them with a gun or something.
Yeah.
Right. Good. And then on the following night, there is a little girl who obviously is a Trojan horse from the cult, and they bring her inside, and she has her tongue cut out, which seems to be a thing for the thing that the cult does to their members. And shocker, she is full of cell phones where the alarms gets off in the same time. So they of course create a lot of sounds.
I mean, this whole scene, I cringed the whole scene.
It's so strange. I mean, it's so strange. First of all, if the cult is interested in fertile women, why do they sacrifice that little girl who would probably get fertile later on and not just someone else?
Mm.
So it kind of like speaks against themselves, I think. So it was really strange. Well, they try to kidnap Ellie and they kind of succeed, but the grandmother jumps out and acting all action hero thing and tries to sacrifice herself, and Ellie gets off, and then the grandmother does the thing that we all expected her to do. She screams and they all get attacked. So her and the cult members dies.
Yeah, 3 of them at least.
Yeah. And that was her only point of this movie. And as you said in the beginning, Ruben, she could easily have been one character, the mother and the grandmother. But I think since the mother is, the mother, that it gets too, what should I say, too
graphic or what?
Not too graphic, but it's the mother, and the relationships between them is usually tighter than it is to her grandmother. And if they were to sacrifice the mother, it would be a bigger deal, I think. I don't know,
but that would have been better because let's say her leg doesn't heal and she knows she's about to die because of the infection. She can use this to run out and save her daughter.
Yeah, and here's another point to the quiet place, because they decide to do this instead. I not want to spoil that movie too much, but there is a point to A Quiet Place. Do you know which scene I mean in the end there? With John Krasinski?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, good. Then maybe someone else would do so. Anyway, the cult members are dead, and funny thing here, there is an epic fight, between the cult members and the family after the grandmother saves Ellie. Yeah, and here the father does a headbutt on one of the cult members. And this is a reference to earlier in the movie where he is talking about how he and his best friend Glenn met in the high school, and that Glenn saved him from the bullies by headbutting one of the bullies.
Oh yeah, that's true.
Yeah, it's a small detail. So, moving on. They are now hiking towards, is it Alaska, or where are they going? Canada?
I don't know. Just one more comment about the last scene.
Yeah.
Because one thing that doesn't make sense, because they make sound, so the flying bat things are flying all around them and stuff. But the big problem with this scene is there is a giant thunderstorm right above them. So why wouldn't the bat things be attracted to the thunder sounds?
Yeah, I was thinking about that too. Maybe they should just be totally disoriented and not know what to do, or they just should fly up in the air.
Yeah, and get electrocuted or whatever.
Yeah, perhaps. I don't know. I don't think they would be electrocuted or even hit by the...
I actually had a thought about that.
Yeah.
What if there ever is a huge tornado? Will that wipe all of them out? Because they would fly straight into it because it makes a lot of sound, and a tornado will kill them.
You know,
problem
life
solved.
finds a way.
Okay, Goldblum.
Right. Yeah, but that's a good question, Adam. I think so. I think they probably would. There's a lot of things that are bad, that make sounds, and that we would be attracted to, but they can't hurt really. So yeah, probably.
Okay, but let's move on.
Yeah, so they're hiking towards Alaska or Canada or whatever. They're going north to find a refugee that her Skype friend was talking about. I guess that's his point in the movie. And here it comes, that weird monologue. I was going to refer to it, to the question that you asked, Adam, what happens, but she's talking about people and animals adapting to the new environment, and that maybe the bad-looking things will adapt to the new world where they can't see, but they hear stuff and whatnot. And maybe they would learn what good and bad for them. And also that the humans will adapt and use soundproof weapons and stuff.
Yeah, it's just you learn to adapt. The end. Like what kind of ending was that?
It ended very, very suddenly for me.
Yeah, it's just okay. We're at this new place. We survived. We adapted, and now it's over. What?
Exactly. No, they should have introduced something that creates some sort of hope or something. Like, not that they just started to, okay, there's a lot of killing animals on the loose, so let's adapt to that. I mean, they should have introduced something, a plan or whatever, not just that they ends up in a refugee camp and they start using an arrow or what's it called? Or arrows and bows and whatnot. That was strange.
Also, am I the only one that find it strange that we have these monster bats flying around eating people, and yet the movie still portrays Christians as the real bad people?
Maybe they're not actual Christians, but whatever.
But when they first met him, he wrote God with a big letter like Christians do. Then we're also on the news that Ali commented sometime that they were crucifying some guy in Mississippi or whatever.
Yeah, whatever. It's just stupid.
But it's a good point, Adam, because do they really need some more enemies in this world? Because it's them towards the animals. It's not humans towards humans. Yeah. Or is it just a confrontation that's inevitable?
I think that this movie has too many characters. So yet another point, Quiet Place, because it actually focuses on the few characters it has and it portrays them in a good way.
Right.
I actually wrote this, but I was gonna save it for the actual review. But whatever. I just they had to have a rape cult in this movie because the monsters wasn't interesting and effective enough. Because if the rape cult wasn't there, nothing would have happened. It would just have been safe in their house and stuff. So it's kind of pointless with the monsters.
That is also the premise of the movie. If you decide to do this movie, then you need to accept the challenges and work around that, not just create something else and make other issues for them.
Yeah, just a random additional problem that has nothing to do with anything else.
Right.
Annoying.
And just want to point out too that Ali is deaf, right?
Mm-hmm.
And she talks a lot in this movie, and it's nothing wrong with that. Deaf people can talk pretty well, actually, even if they're deaf. The only problem that they usually have is that they have a hard time, adjusting the volume of their voice. So from Ali's perspective, I think she should have been quiet this entire time. Yeah, she should have shut up because she's not. She doesn't know how high she's talking. Maybe she's talking really loud. Maybe she's not. But at some point when she's sitting in a back seat and talking to her father, she's kind of whispering and whatnot. I mean, I don't know. I don't think they kind of play the deaf part really well.
No, it's kind of hard to buy that she's deaf.
Yeah, exactly. It works too well for her. It's not a problem at all. She doesn't really reach any situations either where her not hearing is a bad thing for her. It has no effect in the movie. Why is she deaf? Why bring a deaf character into this? It only creates questions.
Yeah, it's just for the family to learn sign language, I guess. But
yeah, but they don't use it. I mean, they use it, but they still talk. They still talk.
Talk too much.
Exactly. And also, if they are using sign language, then it kind of makes them easier for them to be quiet. So if you are doing a movie like this, don't you want to create a situation where they do sounds? And instead of giving them the tools for not doing it. Maybe they could have learned sign language. Maybe that could have been one of the adapting things in the end, that we learned to adapt. So now we only use sign language. I haven't heard my father speak in years. Blah, blah, blah. You know, stuff like this.
Yep.
I don't know.
It felt like they could have done this movie so much better. It's just
watching this movie, I really see A Quiet Place in a new light, because this movie really made me appreciate that movie, because it made me realize how clever and well thought out that movie actually is, because they did so many things right that this movie didn't do.
Yeah, the first time when I saw The Quiet Place, it's just, I felt like it was okay. I wasn't that impressed, but it was still okay and a cool idea and stuff. But then when I see this movie, it's just, A Quiet Place became so much better, and this movie just shows how flawed it is.
I saw The Quiet Place on the cinemas, and I gotta say that they're using the silence as a tool in this movie, because it's absolutely quiet. And if you kind of ignore people eating chips and stuff in the cinema, it's just total silence, and you're just following these characters, and it actually creates a sort of tension, because it's so quiet and it's so unusual. And so I don't know why they could have done this. This movie actually came out after A Quiet Place, so they could have recognized the good thing about that, I think. Yeah, so there's a lot of issues in this movie, but I think we should rate it. Unless you have some another comments.
Nah, I think we can rate it.
Yep.
Let's rate it. Do you want to start, Adam?
Yeah, sure. So, again, I feel that if you want to watch this kind of movie, then you should probably watch The Quiet Place instead, if you feel you only can choose one, because Quiet Place is really better in, I would say, every single way. Not that the movie is a masterpiece, but it's better. This movie, it's okay, but a lot of things don't make sense, and I don't know, feels kind of cheap that I felt I had to throw in a rape cult at the end, as Ruby said, but yeah, I'll give it 5 out of 10.
Yeah, and as you said, Adam, if you want to watch one of these films, like you want to watch a movie that's about people have to be silenced, or creating watching a movie with some sort of silence tension within it, then you can watch A Quiet Place. There's absolutely no reason for them to make this movie after A Quiet Place. And even if they did, they could have looked at the good things at A Quiet Place and even evolved that into something better than to just do this half-assed thing where they create characters that doesn't really have any part of the movie. They may use too many characters. They give them qualities that have absolutely no value in the movie, and it doesn't really affect any situations. And that is the biggest part that I have with the movie. I mean, there's nothing wrong with the effects. It didn't bother me. It's not, the acting is really good. I would say the dialogues between the characters are really good. They have all the tools. They have good actors for this too. And besides, what's her name, Shipka in real life, besides her being deaf, she's a good actor in this movie. But the deaf thing is just weird. And it bothers me throughout the whole movie that they decided to make her deaf. And they have too many characters. So I'm going to give this a 4 out of 10.
Okay, I mostly agree with you guys. I think the acting was kind of bland, in my opinion. I like the dad, the main character. He was probably the best character in the movie. And Yeah, the movie had weird rules. It started off by making up new rules, but then later on in the movie they kind of ignored those rules and made new ones instead. So that kind of threw me off. And the whole Dark Ages thing, that was kind of cringe. And it was kind of pointless, the whole thing. So because of Stanley Tucci, I'm going to give it 3 out of 10. Otherwise, it would have been a 2 out of 10.
Mm-hmm. Well, there you have it. And remember that
I have one more thing.
Okay.
I made up alternative titles for the movie, and you can say if you like it or not.
Okay, shoot.
Yeah.
Okay, The Flying Moles.
Well, it's better, so...
Makes sense, yeah.
Okay, Why Didn't We Stay Home?
Okay, that one was really, really good, actually.
Or maybe We Should Have Stayed Home.
Right. That was even better.
And the last one, The Movie Birdemic Wanted to Be.
Are we going to throw Birdemic in front of the bus?
Well, it's not like it's going to get worse because of that. So,
yeah, well, we thank you for those suggestions. We'll see if the director will listen to this and maybe change his mind.
It makes as much sense as the silence, at least.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, they weren't silent even a minute, so. Oh, well. Yeah, so as I was saying, remember that you can contact us at bmso.contact@gmail.com. We're happy for all sorts of feedback and, of course, suggestions of bad movies. See you next time.
Bye.
Bye.